Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of The Progressive World, where we talk about everything and anything related to the progressive world. So we got a semi-light video, you can say, episode this time around. So here's just a quick rundown, and timestamps are included, as always, down below. First, we're going to talk about Michael Moore's interview on TYT. It was relatively interesting. Then Richard Wolff made some interesting comments on ACT.TV, talking about how forgiving student loans is perhaps not the best idea. And we'll also talk about with that story about a new report that's come out about university university admissions having dropped. Sorry, not university admissions, but number of people, Americans attending university, have dropped recently. Then we have another segment of points of contention where Sam and I have a little debate about things that we don't agree on. And this time it's going to be on AI and automation. And if it's, this next wave of automated robots and jobs are really going to take away all the jobs out there, or if it's not going to be too different than before. And then finally, we're going to end with some progressive tweets from Brianna Jo Gray and tweets by Katie Halper and others, and just discuss what's in it before ending with some viewer comments where Sam is going to address one or two comments that he made in a previous video that got some of our viewers a bit, let's say, they just wondered why Sam made these comments. So we will get to them. It's about Chavez, I believe. And yeah, it's mainly about Chavez. But okay, Sam, and I forgot to introduce you and say that, as always, I'm joined by my co-host, Sam. Everything good with you?
Yeah, cheers.
But yeah, so timestamps below, so you can just jump to your favorite segment. But yeah, Sam, so I came across this TYT interview with Anna, which I don't think you would have seen it, with Michael Moore, sorry, which I don't think you would have seen it.
No,
if I didn't send
really
it to you because you don't subscribe to them. Sorry, yeah, go ahead.
No, it was really funny interview. Besides the whole content, I found the beginning of the interview, especially. If you want, I can tell you now. But I found the beginning, especially, really funny.
Because they were sucking up to each other.
That and before that, because okay, I mean, just watch that interview. But the Cenk's face in the beginning is more red than Mars. And he's just, I think he thinks, because Michael Moore has had some association with more radical things. Yeah. So I think he was ready to just murder anybody in that. Goddamn, Michael Moore is, and Anna is like, being nice and all that. I just found him to be so angry. And then Michael Moore just starts sucking up to him, which I found the whole thing. That's why, by the way, don't, I just so weird. Like, you do a great job for us, and thank you, and thank you. And
joining us now is Michael Moore, a man who really doesn't need an introduction, but he is getting one. He's the host of the critically acclaimed
Way Too Long, and major props to both of you for what you do. It's much appreciated by all of us out here.
Thank you so much.
No, thank you.
It's just, I hate thank yous. Anyway, but that was so funny. The whole anger and then sucking up and then, yeah.
Oh, I see. So
thank you. No, thank you. No, you, thank you. No, thank you. We are doing great right now. Yeah. Everybody's fighting against injustice.
Everybody's fighting. TYT is always fighting. But okay, so you think that Cenk might have thought that it might get a bit confrontational, so he was preparing himself.
It was just fun.
But it went very smoothly.
I don't want to. Yeah, I can't read minds or anything. It seemed like that to me. But it was at the beginning. Seemed really funny to me. It just seemed a weird, tense energy. Yeah, just weird. Yeah.
Okay, so I mean, this is why I still subscribe to TYT, because maybe every now and then there's something that we can talk about. Usually it's to dunk on them and, point out the stupidity in their arguments. But I guess for once, that is not the reason. So I'll just summarize Michael Moore's main point, and then maybe you can react and we can take it from there. So he pretty much, his overall take in the interview is that Biden is doing a pretty good job. I didn't vote for him. I was supporting Bernie, but he's doing a really good job. You have to give credit where credit is due. And in fact, he goes as far as saying that Biden is implementing Bernie's values. So he goes, pretty far with this. It wasn't just in passing. And then he goes on to talk about Afghanistan. And again, he was very, he was like, Biden is doing a great job. He goes as far as saying that the withdrawal from Afghanistan, was really good. This is a quote for him: most amazing retreat by a power who lost a war. So, he's admitting that, of course, it's within that context. But, he says that Biden did a really good job. He got all the Americans out, and he even said that, they got over 120,000 Afghanis out. And he's like, that should cover at least all the translators. I mean, I think there he was being a bit too much. I mean, of course, there are other people from Afghanistan that work very closely with the Americans beside translators, whose lives could be in danger and they might want to have leave and couldn't. But anyway, overall, he was extremely complimentary, and he was like, yeah, we have to give him credit where credit is due. And like this later on, if he starts messing up, we can come and say, we praised you when you were doing good, but now that is no longer the case. But yeah, so what did you make of that overall? Any comments, any takes?
Look, the way he framed it, I don't think you can really criticize what he said, but like I think somebody mentioned that way before this election, that a lot of people don't understand that for a majority of the people who supported Bernie Sanders was the compromise candidate.
Mm-hmm.
Like even his policies, they weren't that crazy and stuff. So even when somebody's, let's say, doing 25%, let's say doing 40% of his agenda, which I don't think Biden is, I happen to disagree that in terms of economically, he doesn't, I don't know. I mean, like, you can do a proper study on this and go through everything Biden has done so far. But I don't think it would be more than 40% with so far overlap with Bernie's agenda. And so, okay. The retreat from Afghanistan, I think, in what sense? For Americans, I think, yeah, he's right. Overall, it was one of the way better retreats. But, I don't know. I think somebody should do a comparative study with sort of India and British retreat from India, or maybe Hong Kong. Maybe that's another more
interesting,
potentially peaceful. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe there could be comparative studies there. So it's just coming out and saying this. I think what happened was because Americans didn't want to lose their clout or whatever, they just didn't tell anybody. So you had all these sort of Afghani officials getting like the local whatever. And whether that's a good thing or bad thing, I don't know. But I don't think it was a amazing pullout. And he said, he said some really ludicrous stuff. He said the way they negotiated, the negotiation team was fantastic. This president negotiated fantastic, which, to be honest, besides the fact that it's completely wrong and bullshit, and he doesn't give the same credit, by the way, to Trump. He says he pretended to want to get out, but Biden actually get out. I don't think they both would have done the same shit, like with a couple of months difference. But it belies a very little understanding of politics. The idea that Biden's negotiating team, these type of things are carried out by civil servants who are not elected and have been there and are decided by long-term policies. And if it's not, a new team doesn't come and in 10 months sort of negotiates a fantastic deal to pull. Yeah, it's just I found it. Oh, I mean, you can say Biden is better than a lot of presidents. I said that I don't think even Bernie would have been able to pull out, because the pushback from the State Department and other places would have been way too much. But it doesn't mean we have, like, I don't understand this, like, don't get very, if too much, they don't seem to be able to do a cogent analysis, which is, I don't know, based on what, I like to know his measurements about the fact that he's saying that Biden is implementing Bernie's agenda. I would like to know, like, based on what it could, like, not more than a couple of examples that are similar.
Yeah.
Like, you see,
I mean,
canceling a student debt, you see, doing Medicare, like
no,
how much,
exactly. I mean,
and
these
what
are the examples that
percentage.
he gave. He gave the child tax credit one, which is okay, that was a good one. It was within the context of COVID, of course, but that was a good one.
And
And he gives the food stamp increase. He's like, it's the first one from the 60s, but his point was well taken, but still.
fair enough. Yeah.
Yeah.
He's probably, I would say Biden is the most leftist democratic president since Carter, but that's like, okay.
Yeah. I mean, exactly. I think I really agree with your analysis, because he took it way too far and then just started giving praise to things that happened because they were going to happen that way. Exactly. Like they negotiated so well the withdrawal. Then he's like, the last American soldier who was there, he was just allowed to walk off or whatever, so they had negotiated with everyone. He wasn't worried. And I mean, I might have missed this part in the interview in the beginning if they would have talked about it, but he doesn't say anything about healthcare, right? Or does he say something about healthcare? And I mean, Bernie's main thing was healthcare. So I didn't.
Look, and yeah, exactly.
I didn't catch that.
Yeah, it's such a subjective thing.
Yeah.
Anyway, how, like, what is, if
he
yeah,
took it
what
too far.
way do you give to each of Bernie's policies and how much they mattered and all that? So yeah, I just thought it was a ridiculous conversation as a whole. So
I mean, I just think he took it too far.
because
I mean,
it seemed like by the way, it seemed like a completely, like, the whole setup framework was defense of Biden, because and so I'm glad somebody from the left is willing to say the good things that Biden is doing. Can you said, like, they brought Michael Moore as somebody who has some sort of credibility and clout to defend, but and okay, all right, he's a bit, he's almost like as left-wing as Carter, who was not that left-wing anyway. So
I mean, the only thing I like to admit, and if you would have left it at that, it's good, is that you have to admit that, like, I mean, like you've been kind of saying that it's been a bit surprising, Biden. I must say, personally, it's been a bit surprising. Like, I guess his policies and I guess the way he stuck by the Afghanistan withdrawal, or although it was agreed and he got all that backlash, you just expect so much worse for some reason. So, I mean, just because the bar is set so low, that even when they do things which are part of the circumstance, right? Like, I mean, he had to put out these relief packages because of COVID. I guess, maybe the infrastructure stuff and these other bills that are coming, maybe those another president in his place wouldn't. But a lot of them, they're the product of the time and circumstance.
Maybe that's that's a personal issue of mine, that I just don't get surprised anymore by anything. I remember I watched one of my favorite movies is Dina Spanley, and in that with the main character, Peter O'Toole, I think, played him. He says, I something along these lines, that I think if something went to the trouble of happening, I think it was inevitable. So it was just, I don't know. I never, I suppose. Yeah.
No, I mean, I guess he didn't overpromise,
maybe.
He did the typical thing of, I guess, most people, like when you tell them to do a project or something, they overpromise and they under deliver. He was just a nut job during the campaign. He just promised that he'll argue and fight back with anyone, which he still does. Like, I've seen in these press conferences with journalists and stuff.
Love that,
you can still get. He just got like that over the Afghanistan thing 2 weeks ago. He got feisty, and there were just two questions.
He's got that angry old man vibe, which is sometimes good.
But but that's besides that. But I mean, maybe one more thing you can kind of say, he almost makes it seem like Bernie is the puppet, is the puppet master behind Biden. And he's he says something about their friendship, but I didn't understand the analogy, something about at the end of their lives, they're really becoming close or something along those lines. You have to go listen to the interview and maybe you'll understand the analogy.
Sadly, but I mean, this is a bit morbid, but I feel like, sadly, Mr. Biden is getting far from all of us very slowly. I don't know, but Okay, I don't know, and I don't, because none of this matters. The presidency is a joke. It's a show. It's just another reality show for people to keep watching. It doesn't even have that much. It's the rooms that power sort of conducts itself through. It's a reality show, most of it. So
Yeah, a lot of it. I have to agree
Biden,
with you.
Bernie.
A lot of it. I mean, they're not completely, useless and have no power, but of course there are all these people who are just, they're not voted in, and they're working every day, like everywhere in the world. I'm not just saying that's a bad thing, but like most people who run the government and all, and the important sectors and industries, they're not politicians who are voted anywhere in the world. But yeah, so if nothing else to add there, should we move on to our second story? So this one is on student loans. Yeah. Oh, the internet connection got a bit messed up there. No, you're good. You're back. All right, you're there. Are you there? I think you're frozen.
Oh, sorry. I think.
Yeah.
Am I?
You're there. Okay. No, you're good. Okay. All right, Sam. So I'll try to explain this video to Richard Wolff, what the argument that he was making in this video too, because I sent you a few things and it got mixed up. But I was a bit surprised, right? I was a bit surprised. So Richard Wolff, he always goes on this channel. It's called like act.tv. They look like they're YouTube based, but at the same time, they look a bit like a normal like TV news station. And this was the title of the video. I think that already says a lot and why it caught my attention. It says, forgiving student loan debt may have dire consequences with Professor Wolff. So Biden has kind of right now, he's thinking of eliminating $10,000 per student. So however, how much debt you have, he's planning on removing 10,000. That's kind of what he is working for or like fighting for right now. And I was surprised. Richard Wolff, well, first he started off with sentiment that I agree with and you do, but maybe you don't think it's as important, I've come to realize, which is that university should be free. And, he talks, of course, about his favorite European examples, talks about Germany, and he says it's absolutely ridiculous that in the US you have to go pay thousands and thousands of dollars just to get a university degree. But then he goes on to say, I don't think it's perhaps a good idea to even pass this, to even eliminate $10,000 per person, because others who maybe they paid off their student loans or people who decided not to go to university, what about them? It's unfair to them. And then he goes on to say, I'm just looking at my notes to see if I don't miss out on anything. Yeah, and he says, there are 4 types of debts. There are home mortgages, car payments, credit card debt, and student debt. And he's, just saying, it will be unfair to the others and there could be serious backlash. And he says, on top of that, I don't think that Biden is doing this for the right reasons. He's kind of doing it for political reasons, but there can also be political backlash. So Sam, I don't know. I don't really agree with Professor Richard Wolff here, based on the simple thing that you can kind of say that about anything or most things, right? I mean, anytime you try to fix something, or maybe if you try to like fix a harm that was done, you can say, oh, but these people didn't benefit for it, or what about this group? So then I guess you can get into arguments about, why student debt is different than the other ones. I don't know. Fair point take. I mean, yeah, so I kind of disagree with him, I must say. What do you think?
No, I pretty much agree with you. Although I would say that my view has always been and remains so that if you go to university, it should be free. But if you go to a higher institution, education institution, or apprenticeship and like become a mechanic or a carpenter, whatever, you should spend more than, it's like NHS doctor sort of. At least you should spend 10 years or so working for the state. I don't think, like if you're, let's say, you study, I don't know, arts, you should spend 10 years working in museums or whatever. You should, like, there should be a payback in that sense, I think. I've always thought. But so that's why I understand why, for example, if they do, I mean, even like as a foreigner who has studied abroad, I always felt extremely, you feel ripped off that people who don't pay get the same education people, or they get loans and they nag about the fact, oh, I got a loan from a bank, and I mean, one day maybe I have to pay it back. It's so sad. So it does, like, if you are actually paying, it does bother you and all that. But you're right. You like at some point you have to draw the line, right? It's like saying, of course, I'm sure that, if you've been a slave all your life and at age 82 suddenly emancipation arrives, I would be so fucking angry. I would be pissed off, really pissed off. Like I would want to universe, fuck you. But you have to say that, like, people like me and a lot of other people who have paid for their education or who have gone into debt, I think they have to accept that reality, that it was a shitty system. We got fucked by it. Let's hope future generations don't get fucked by it as much. It's gonna make you angry and you're gonna have some resentment towards the youth, but that's fine. Just just have the resentment, just keep it inside. Push it down.
But so about your payback thing, I mean, technically speaking, you've paid like for university through your taxes before, so it's not like
your parents paid for your university through their taxes.
Yeah, people, society. I mean, that's how it works.
And do you know how much it costs to train a doctor or engineer? It costs a fuckload. But
then it has a shitload of benefits for society also. I mean, having doctors.
Very long term, if they don't go to private practice, if they don't go
even if they go into private practice, even if they go still having doctors in private practice, it's better than no doctors.
If the state pays for your education, you should serve that estate.
If there is a point to it, I mean, I don't.
No. If there is a point to it, no. If they paid for that, maybe it was arts and the value is not as much as a doctor. So serve your nation for your state for 2 years or 3 years, not as long as a doctor. But if somebody gives you something, I think it's a good precedent to set, especially for the youth.
You always throw weird curveballs that I don't even know how to react. I don't even disagree with this idea so much. I had never thought about it though, but listen, people have already through taxes and stuff they pay though. You make it seem like the government is just like giving this money. No, it's the money that they have collected. Yeah, but I mean, they paid for part of it and stuff, and then you continue paying back to society through everything you do. So yeah, but I don't necessarily oppose what you're suggesting.
Yeah,
but
sure. No, I just think it should be planned economy. But I completely, I'm in agreement with you. All I'm saying is just, there should be a noticed, like, this is for that sort of thing. It's just not just, okay, in the long term, they go to society and they pay us back type of thing. I don't know. I feel like there should be a more systematic version of that.
But okay, so let me try and introduce
is, by the way, in many countries, it is in many countries, doctors have to go serve in impoverished areas for the first 2-3 years, or residents or whatever. Or it's many countries do this. What I'm saying is not some weird thing. I'm just saying that let's just do it a bit more.
I mean, with doctors, last point, with doctors, I guess it works very well because they have this this system of you having to do, these internships that you do. I forgot the word, but they kind of like
they become interns.
Yeah, they do interns. Residency and stuff. So I guess it's really easy to then control. I mean, to come up with different ways of putting them for them to be useful and serve society directly in that way. But okay, let me try to introduce a few points and then come back to an original argument that I once made, which was, I find that, university not being free in the US is one of the top issues, not perhaps because it's dire in the way it impacts people, because it's so stupid and it could be solved easily. But here are just a few points about, student loan debts and all this. So the average college debt among student loan borrowers in America is $3,200, almost $3,300. This is an increase of approximately 20% from 2015 to 2016. Most borrowers have between $25,000 and $50,000 outstanding in student loan debt. More than 600,000 borrowers are over $200,000 in debt. Damn, those people I don't screw 200,000 in debt. That's quite a bit. In total, student loan debt. So I don't like usually looking at numbers overall, but this one's interesting because you can compare. Look at this. In total, the student loan debt outstanding in the country was 346 billion in 2004. That has ballooned to 1.386 billion as of late 2017. This represents a 302% increase in total student loan debt in just 13 years. And just to add a few more facts here, and I found this to be troubling, just kind of how Seger had found it. I heard it there on Breaking Points. So at the close of 2021 academic year, women made up 59.5% of college students, an all-time high, and men 40.5%. So now 60% of college students are women and 40% of men. And so there are less and less men apparently going to university. US colleges and university had 1.5 million fewer students compared with 5 years ago, and men accounted for 47% of the decline. So, I mean, I think going to university, maybe it has to change in a bit, is extremely important, not only for like the certificate that you get or the skills that you learn, but for like intangible things that you kind of accumulate over time with a bachelor. And I understand that university is not for everyone, and there should be different routes for people and apprenticeship, maybe that with some courses. But yes, Sam, I feel like this whole fact of university not being free in the US contributes a lot to a lot of, I guess, young men in the US being like, what's the point of going to university? Which I think is not the best thing for society. So that's why I think if university was at least free in the US, it would get rid of this argument. And yeah, this trend, I do agree with Sagar, and yeah, he had his other co-hosts. It is a bit concerning that less men are going to the US. I mean, the country is growing, are going to university. The country is growing, and you have 1.5 million fewer students compared with 5 years ago. Strange stat. I wonder if there's more to explain this. But yeah, any reactions?
Or I think, to be honest, education, first of all, I think like focusing on very young childhood is far more important than higher education. So I don't know why university is always made such a big deal. I think first years are far more important. Second, I don't know if they went like, I don't know if it's a bad thing if people don't go to university or a good thing, because I think it's just such a broad, again, like it has to be like talked about specifically. If there are less, let's say, I don't know, let's say less I did international relations, less people doing international relations, is that necessarily a bad thing? I don't think so. Less people doing finance? No. Less people doing artists, you know what I mean? Like from what I understand, most nations right now have a major educational a major skill problem in terms. That's why they tend to try to attract doctors, engineers from the third world, developing world, and all that. So I think it should be taught, this issue of, it should be talked about in those terms, not in terms of young men are dropping out or going, is university good or bad or stuff. That to me is a bit of a sort of a party coffee table discussion, that college education is good or bad. I don't know. I don't care. It depends who you are, and it depends where your nation is at the moment in many ways. Like, so yeah, I think it should be looked at in that framework. Otherwise, I don't care. But yeah, education should be free. And I do think a lot of people right now, men, women, I would think men more so, because men tend to have more option in terms of manual labor. For example, in a country, for example, in Iran, you can earn far more as a delivery man on a bike than as an office worker, for example. As a, not any office worker, obviously, as a lot of, like, as a, if you wanted to tomorrow to start working, it would be more beneficial to get a bike and do deliveries. You would earn far more
initially, for sure.
Initially, exactly. It's not a career path. But so yeah, a lot of people are making that calculation, or are forced into making that calculation because they have people that need the money, or themselves need the money for health, for many other things that are not also free in the world, most of the world. So yeah, I think it should be looked at in that framework. What do we need right now in terms of like what skills do we lack, what's going on, just generally speaking about college. Is like, I remember Liverpool University were offering Beatles studies degrees. I really don't care if that goes away. Yeah.
But I think even those are useful because, I mean, you made a good point about the childhood, early childhood days, and those are talked about as well, early childhood education. So it's not like it's either this or that. But
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
it's just that based on my own personal experience, and you hear this about all the time. People are like, you're a kid until you're like 25 or 30. You just only start maturing there. So I just find that, after 18, there's just like another chance that people should be, through free education, should be exposed to different kind of classroom settings and like ideas and people, and this overall would have intangible benefits. So it doesn't really matter what degree you do. But I mean, some people don't want to go to university. People want to work immediately and stuff. So you're right about that. So I mean, that's why I'm saying that maybe university should be thought of differently as well. But in any way, my point is that education should continue. Free education should continue, be tiny bit compulsory even after the age of 18, because I think it's another opportunity and period in like a human's brain to, not that you're always exposed to good stuff anyway, but I think there could be some benefits in it to it.
Again, I think medicine just has such a good framework for that in terms of like, I think education and work basically kind of should be sort of combined in a way that from like, let's say age 16, you pretty much work and you learn. Like doctors, from what I understand, have to do regular tests as science progresses. I don't know how, by the way, every country is different. I'm not sure how rigorous it is, but this is like, let's say this is my perfect ideal movie image that I have, that doctors have to get their certificate every 5 years. They do a test, they do workshops, they do conferences. I recall like a lot of doctors I knew always were on conferences and all that. So I think every subject should be like that. And I do think there is a social value to having a class and having that thing. But I do think there are just some things are just you can organize online with people that are also interested in the music you are, and get together and talk about it. You don't need a state to fund it or to have classrooms for it and all that. That's
to
all
a certain extent. But I mean, I don't think what you're learning should necessarily be related to your job only, at least in the initial years. I mean, maybe it's because I studied social sciences. Yeah, that's childhood. But even after, maybe it's because I studied social sciences and I have a bias towards it. But I feel like any adult should be kind of exposed to some of like the bigger like social science and like political philosopher thoughts and ideas. And like that, you see like, oh, something that you heard and you think that, oh, this is new. And I mean, you won't learn everything, but you'll realize, oh no, like 300 years ago, they were saying like the same thing or this and that. And I mean, once you're out of school and stuff, for a lot of people, they just fall into their own path in life, which makes complete sense. I'm not judging, but that's why I'm saying, they're still young. It's after the age of 18. That's why there should be some kind of free education being still offered to people for a few years. But yeah, it's kind of repeating myself now.
No, I agree with the free education thing, but I think you should get something out of them as well. Because I just don't, I always thought, epistemology and ontology should be taught to everybody just to know how they know stuff. But at the same time, though, man, I've seen so many people exposed to education just has no effect. It seems to me, I mean, if I haven't done an objective study, but if you look at the last 70 years and stuff, I don't think education really worked. Like, I don't know. I don't think humans, we'll get to that in the response segment, but I really don't think even a good education system at the best of it can't really do much.
No, I can't fight you back too much there.
I don't know.
Because I guess we can both find sets of examples from both sides. So I 100% agree in so many ways. It looks like it's failed.
It's not a
some parts of it.
It's not a hard, like, it's not my definite view. It's just
Yeah.
a feeling. I don't know.
Yeah. Point taken. And I guess just one last thing to mention. So this stat that I read about, less people going to university. I mean, Sagar and his co-host, one of the main reasons they were a bit troubled by it. So they were saying, this will bring more kind of divisiveness in society and, more differences and more people who go to university and less who go. So I think that was kind of also one of their more than there is. That was their kind of point. But yeah, go check out their video on this. That was pretty good. I enjoyed it. And Sagar had his realignment co-host. I should have wrote his name down, but they're not too bad together. I kind of enjoyed it more than Crystal and Kyle.
Oh yeah.
These two are a funny pair too, though.
Yeah.
They look like they've gone their whole professional career together. I think they went to university together. It's like right along with each other. Yeah. But okay, Sam, should we move on to our AI and automation story and all this?
Points of contention.
Points of contention. Yes. So what is our disagreement? Our disagreement
I don't know.
I'll tell you. One is that I don't think that the next wave or the current wave of AI or automation is going to disrupt the job market in such a drastic way that differs from the previous and the ongoing waves of automation that go back decades and centuries. And the second one being, this is a kind of small one. This is the second one, you were kind of talking about car fatality and how, automated vehicles are so much safer. So that's kind of like a smaller one. But yeah, before getting into that, I don't know, I just have a few facts that I wanted to put out. But I mean, I guess my first one comes back. I mean, let's put the car stuff aside. And my first one is really about the fact that this upcoming wave of automation. And so here I'll play this Bloomberg video, just parts of it, which talks about how, sorry, not Bloomberg, a DW video, how drones have not taken the place of deliveries. They were supposed to come and make Amazon deliveries and stuff. That has not happened, but they are being used in these areas to surveillance cranes and see if there's anything wrong with it. And previously they had to, well, people can just watch the video right now. They'll do a better job explaining it than me.
Sounded like the plan for the future. Packages just zipping through the air, carried by drones to recipients in far-to-reach places. That was the idea. But Germany's biggest logistics company, Deutsche Post, recently dropped its project for a delivery drone. Other areas of use sound more promising. Hamburg's harbor logistics firm HHLA already successfully deploys working drones to, among other things, inspect giant cranes.
The company HHLA Sky deploys these drones at the port of Hamburg to aid in maintenance. They surveil 50 overhead cranes looking for possible damage. The cranes had to be shut down when industrial climbers performed the task. I fly the drone around the overhead crane, and at the trouble spots, I make high-resolution photos. The photos are then automatically transferred to us in maintenance. That means the procedure takes about 3 to 4 hours instead of 8 hours to 2 days with the industrial climbers.
But yeah, Sam, now that people have seen this video, I think I'm just going to use this example of how this kind of automation, a lot of what we talked about that is going to take over, they're going to start doing Amazon deliveries. That didn't happen. But we're seeing, of course, it being used in other areas. And this has replaced a few jobs before people have to climb up these cranes, but it has probably created some jobs making these drones. So that's just where I kind of don't really agree, I guess, with what our former friend, the politician, used to say a lot too. I guess I don't see it as big of a threat as he did, Andrew Yang, and of course, so do many others.
Yes, can I, should I? Okay, I have a very specific response, which is I don't see it as a threat. I see it as an opportunity. I don't know what will happen in the future. I don't think, sadly, I actually happen to agree with you that there might in the next 30 years, that's what the robots taking over most of manual labor might not happen, but this is something I fully hope to happen. I hope governments and other institutions invest in technology so people don't have to clean the streets or drill in the sea or I mean, if they love it, I know I've heard of miners who loved mining, but I think that's more to do with the sort of again, like doing a job since childhood and all that. But it's just, yeah, I really think, I hope there we get to a point, and I think like with the technologies we have, what I'm saying I think is possible. It's just the question of political will and money, obviously, investment. So yeah, that was my contention. It's not that I think I hope it happens. I don't know. If I was part of the establishment of the global whatever, I would hope, like I would push for that. That would be my sort of thing.
I mean, I guess
I'm just
my point,
and I'm not worried about it, because if that happens and jobs are lost and people are going hungry, then they would hungry people don't tend to they organize at that point. People tend to organize very fast when they're hungry. I think that somebody did that in one study, that there is quite a correlation between prices of bread and social unrest or riots across the world. And whenever price of bread sort of goes up suddenly, I think that's just, yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to try not to fall for one of your curveballs again and go
And,
on a tangent. I agree with what you did, putting that aside. And yeah, I'm not saying that it's either threat or opportunity. And yeah, so my only point is that no matter if some jobs are replaced by automation gradually or AI, it will not happen in one go, and it will not lead to problems with people not having jobs. It seems to just be replacing it. And I guess you could say in one way, the proof is in the pudding in terms of unemployment rates, right? Sure, maybe unemployment is more than, the official rate. There's underemployment and all this, but it doesn't seem like automation is ever the reason that is, it's skyrocketing. There's underemployment because people are not being paid enough, or there was unemployment because of the crashes or because of skills not adjusting. It's just, I guess my only point here is the whole doom of gloom of AI and automation replacing all jobs and people not having jobs. I don't really fall for that. I guess that's kind of my point.
I don't fall for the doom and gloom. I fall for the
well, you fall for that scenario. You just think it's good. Well, not fall.
I love it. No, but I do think it's gonna. No, but I do think. I hope, and I think the automation has had I mean, what the thing is, automation is only. It's so new. That's the thing.
Is it though? Why? No, why would you say it's new? Can't you go back to agriculture?
Okay, you can medieval times, and yes, there was you can automatons. Yes, of course. No, but I mean for the reason why manual labor, for example, in the US went out, got destroyed, or in the UK, was because of globalization and third world factories moving to outsourcing and all that. Yeah. But now, even if they do put off tariffs, and if I'm a factory, I want to build a car, I will the new factories will be far less labor intensive and far more technology based. You need one engineer that controls a whole machine rather than 5 people that
perhaps. But it appears to me that it gets canceled out with other jobs being created. That it kind of seems.
I don't think so.
It kind of seems like that way, but
what?
It seems
okay,
the jobs are replaced. Then you have to
street sweepers all become automatons now. What jobs replace those?
Again, you have to build those. Now there's this whole new set. Now there's this whole new sets of robots that you have to build instead of a broom.
Mostly built by robots themselves. I mean,
yeah, but there's people along. Point, yeah. No, I mean, it just seems like the robots always seem to be, at least for now, they have to be accompanied by, by humans, most of them, and then you have to build them, and then you have to fix them, and then there are other jobs is created. I'm just saying that automation, AI don't seem to be a threat to jobs more than they have always been. So the next set, that is.
I mean, I thought the whole point of goddamn robots was that so we don't have to work. I mean, I hope they are a threat to jobs. What's the point of them otherwise? Like, Jesus Christ.
To make things more profitable. But
Yeah,
okay, let's move on to a second kind of similar debate. But I mean, this one, you're right too, kind of, which is, we just had a mini argument about, I said that autopiloted, automated vehicles aren't that safe, and they also have the crashiness. Of course, the data is not comparable, but the number of motor vehicle fatality rate was just interesting. So I wanted to bring it up. So in 2016, because Sam, you said that younger people shouldn't be allowed to drive cars or this or that because cars are so people. Or older people because they're so dangerous.
I genuinely I don't believe in private ownership of cars in general. Just to make it clear.
I mean, I prefer public transportation as well. I think it's better, but I mean, you don't believe in it for what? Like a threat is like because it's dangerous, because you can kill people. But I mean, you can kill and stab people with like, a knife or something.
Yeah, but that's like saying, okay, so AK-47s should be legal too?
No, because they're made for killing.
Well, cars are
not made for killing. They're made for transportation.
Yeah, well,
taking
okay,
people from
guns
point A to B.
A lot of guns are made for hunting. Should they be legal then?
Yeah, that's why there's a different argument
missiles,
there. Yeah.
If you hit a missile that is made to hit an airplane and you use it to hit somebody, like
okay, I mean,
everything is made.
Yeah,
it's but just cars are just such an overwhelming power. No, cars are such an overwhelming like a machine. It's a very complex and powerful machine. It's not the same as a knife or or what was your example? Sorry.
No, a knife. But I mean, but in reality, in like real life, cars are not being used that much to carry out murder. I mean, they do lead to murder. I can read the numbers right now, but they're not in real. So, I mean, my point was just going to be that AI vehicles could also be quite dangerous, and they're not the safety that you wish. But anyway, these motor vehicle fatality rates are pretty scary when you think about it. In 2016, 37,400 people were killed in 34,000 motor vehicle crashes. So that's 102 people per day in the US. And now this is interesting. Records indicate that there were 3.6 million motor vehicle fatalities in the US from 1899 to 2013. So almost, so just a million less, I guess, than the number of people who passed away from coronavirus globally. But so a lot of fatalities, huh?
From 1899 though.
Yeah. So a whole century, 3.6 billion, 3.6 million, sorry. 3.6 million Americans. Yeah.
I thought
no, in 1 year. No. Since 1899. But apparently, according to the National Law Review, quote, despite claims to the contrary, self-driving cars currently have a higher rate of accident than human-driven cars, but the injuries are less severe. On average, there are 9.1 self-driving car accidents per miles driven, while the same rate is 4.1 crashes per million miles for regular vehicles. And then I have another quote here from the conversation, which explains that it's hard to miss the flashing lights of fire engines, ambulances, and police cars ahead of you as you're driving down a road. But in at least 11 cases in the past 3.5 years, Tesla's autopilot advanced driver assistance system did just that. This led to 11 accidents in which Tesla crashed into emergency vehicles or other vehicles at those scenes, resulting in 17 injuries and 1 death. But I mean, again, my petty point here is that no matter how dangerous cars are, AI and automated cars, they don't seem to be there yet. And then I have a little caveat to add about the Olympics. So just remind me to add that. And the scandal that there was there. But anything you'd like to say?
Yeah, I would say, first of all, I think that's because this is focused on the US as well. I think this is more reflection of Tesla is more reflection of American engineering than AI, really, or whatever you want to call it. Because I think if you look at Japanese and German manufacturers, they do a far better job. Tesla is one of the worst electric and self-driving cars out there because it's just the whole Tesla brand is all marketing. I mean, they are one of the worst. But I would agree that the technology should be, of course, I think in my ideal world, every car would be self-driving, and like if you, I don't understand these accidents, for example, if all the cars are going, let's say, at 50 miles per hour, that's not much, is it?
That's
very
like
slow.
decent. No, that's like
That's
10 miles
decent?
below the
Okay.
speed limit
What's
in
okay?
the
Let's say
US.
if you're going
Yeah.
60 kilometers per hour.
Yeah, that's a bit slowish. On the
So,
on a
okay,
highway, let's say you go 100 kilometers an hour, 120.
okay, let's
So you
say everywhere highway, otherwise you have to go 50 kilometers per hour, no more. That's it. Then I don't understand how can we have accidents and like all the cars automatically, you cannot go higher than that even if you want to. I genuinely just don't think humans, it's not about AI like cars and anything. I just think if you have a machine doing these things, I think you would be better. A good, like I think we have the technology, but the numbers about if of course they should do the test, and when yeah, and like when they can do all the regulations, and when the tests are positive that the car, when the moon is out, the car doesn't turn into a werewolf or something, which seems to be I don't know what Tesla used, the werewolf technology or something in their design. But yeah, like when you have everything self-drive, then that I think that would be better.
Yeah, I mean, I think in like a perfect kind of world, but it doesn't seem like it would be the case. And 80 speed limits that you're suggesting, people wouldn't get anywhere in
They
life.
should get,
And
yeah, they should start getting
personally, I'm
around
much
earlier.
for quick public forms of quick public transportation, such as trains and trams. However, I mean, I think the world
That's
that you're
what I'm
describing, where these AI vehicles, they'd all be perfect and not
buses
make
that are
accidents and stuff, it seems to be quite far away. And it's funny that you mentioned the Japanese ones. Now, this story was a bit fishy. That's why I didn't bring it up. I couldn't understand from the article. But did you hear in the Olympics, one of these automated autopilot vehicles, they hit in the Paralympics, they hit one of the participants. So it was this poor person was also, I think the person's fine, one of the athletes, and he was partially blind, or he was blind. But the story doesn't add up, because when I'm reading it, apparently like the car stopped, but then the driver, for some reason, there was a driver apparently who wanted to make it go left or right. As soon as they were about to do it, that's when there was a collision. And then Toyota came out and said, yeah, the AI and the cars are not ready yet. So, I mean, I just think that the world that you hope for, it's not ready yet. And that people are not using cars to kill others as as often as you seem to think.
Not as often as, but just, I don't know. Anyways, but yeah, I would say that what I just want, yeah, it's never gonna happen. But what I meant was not, by the way, like tiny little private cars, automated going around, that type of thing. I meant like buses, AI-driven buses, like trains, like that type of thing. I don't, that's you can move multitude of people through different stations. Of course, makes more sense than, yeah. That was my point. So I think you kind of win this one.
Sorry, it was a bit petty.
No, I admit it's never gonna happen. So yeah, or anyway. So no, it's good. To be honest, yeah. So the Olympic, that was the thing about the games. That was the thing.
Yeah, exactly. And the article didn't make too much, like the articles I couldn't understand, and it seemed like there was a human element. So I was like, this kind of undermines my point, but that's not how you were hearing about it on TV. They really made it seem like it was just a pure automated vehicle that led to this.
Yeah. Or I just wanted to do like a surprise point of contention, because I remember we
Yeah, I
had
don't know
this
what this one's
argument.
about.
Yeah, we had this argument, which was, you said bourgeoisie, and I said, well, like I differentiated between. Well, I was wrong. Okay, so I apologize, but I differentiated between bourgeoisie and capitalist. And then I was reading through Marx and some other people, and then I was like, yeah, shit, I was wrong. So, but I found out why I was wrong, which is like not a bad, like why I
Okay.
was wrong. But you are right. Bourgeoisie are the capitalists because they are the owners of the capital.
In
But the
Marx's narrative, you mean?
in the Marxist,
Yeah.
in the Marxist terminology, yeah. And then, but they are the, what I was thinking are capitalists originally were landowners who can be bourgeoisie or can be aristocracy. But in view of Marx, as capital itself becomes increasingly important, landowners or that type of thing, they lose their importance and their obviously manufacturers, all of that, and capital itself becomes, so capitalists who are mostly bourgeoisie, who are tradesmen and merchants and all that, sort of, they become the main, the elite of the elite, the top dogs, even more than landlords, like royal families, for example, aristocracies. And I like to just read a couple of things. The bourgeoisie or the capitalists are the owners of the capital, purchasing and exploiting labor power, using the surplus value from employment of this labor value to accumulate or expand their capital. My confusion came though from this, that Marx breaks down his classes further down. He talks about, for example, lords. In addition to the bourgeoisie and proletariat, Marx discusses a number of other classes. First, Marx mentions landowners or landlords as a class in Britain. While these were historically important and many still retain their wealth even today, they were considered by Marx to be a marginal class, once powerful and dominant, but having lost their central role in production. Then he talks about petit bourgeoisie and middle class, which is the lower middle class, or petit or petite, French, I believe, for tiny, small manufacturers, shopkeepers, the artisans, the peasants. So yeah, you were right on the terminology, and I was wrong because of this sort of mixture. But I would say that I think Marx, this is one, like I don't necessarily, by the way, I think I'm a bit of a Marxist, but I don't agree with Marx fully. But I think this was one of the big mistakes, sort of the bourgeoisie in many ways came to, I think the landowners are still like quite a, I think he may have downplayed to an extent their power and their influence, the continued power and influence they have, and the fact that the bourgeois, the surprising harmony of interest between the, let's say, what bourgeoisie and the landowner class or aristocracy class is just, in my view, is something he did not coming in a way. He thought bourgeoisie revolutions, then you will have proletarian revolutions. But I don't think you ever saw, in my view, a proletarian class never manifested, really. So yeah. But anyways, you were right about the whole terms. Capitalist means owner of the capital, bourgeois, and all that. So sorry about that. I can be a dick. Yeah.
No worries. I don't even remember when we had this debate, so it's all good. But yeah, I mean, I guess because Marx was so like focused on, like, you know, before there was feudalism and it was only about the people who owned the land, and then there was a transition to capitalism, and I guess he puts like such an emphasis on the bourgeoisie, and he just imagined landowners would become more and more on capital. So he just imagines that landowners would become less and less relevant, which I guess it hasn't been the case whatsoever. And I mean, now it has changed. I mean, now thinking in the sense of bourgeois and just the proletariat, definitely not enough to kind of explain. Of course, there's like the managerial positions and the professional positions that everybody talks about, who aren't technically, they don't own the factory, technically speaking. But I mean, at the same time, they're not proletariat either. So
Yeah, that's the thing. I do think bourgeoisie revolutions led to emergence of a new sort of asset owning, maybe not land owning, but asset owning class. That's yeah. I mean, that's a very deep and interesting discussion. Maybe we should have someday. But yeah, I've only read just a couple of articles. By the way, let me just reference them. I mean, I put the link. We'll hopefully put the link below. But my notes came from A Dictionary of Marxist Thought by Tom Bottomore, and Capitalism and Modern Social Theory by Anthony Giddens, and Class, Power and Conflict by Anthony Giddens and David Helt. So, you know, but yeah, I think, I mean, yeah, I mean, Marx, I mean, if it's such a complicated thing. And yeah, if you want yeah, I think he may have like overemphasized the role of capital sometimes.
I mean, the poor guy can't get everything right. And I mean, he wrote this stuff like 200 years ago or something, like 200 years ago. So, I mean, he got quite a bit. He got quite a good stuff right, and his analysis and understanding.
I think he's just the framework he gave the world to look at economic materialistic relations. I think is the most useful framework. I don't agree with his like predictions with a lot of.
No, I mean those are like predictions. I mean predictions
or human nature.
Yeah.
No, his predictions are more than predictions. The theory of historical materialism is a sort of a theory that will be tested through time. So, you know, I don't agree. I think fundamentally I don't agree with him on human nature. So, and he was a moral philosopher or a political economist. So, you know, but he was just the framework he gave to analyze the world, I think is the best. But yeah, sometimes some idiots just mix up the framework.
This makes me want to go to like a
So the bourgeoisie are the working classes, man. They are the ones toiling away every day.
But this makes me want to go to like a good class of political philosophy at the bachelor level, where there's a teacher who knows about it and is explaining. Not like at the master's level where you have like 4 people with like their own agenda and like their own news that they watch like early on that morning, just trying to get it out. I would just, especially Marx and stuff, like you need someone who knows about it to explain quite a bit at first, and then perhaps you can have a discussion.
Yeah, Marx is so, I would say it's hard. That's what I say.
All right, Sam, so let's move on to our progressive tweets section where we discuss tweets by some progressives and see if there's anything fun to talk about. So let's start off with our good friend, Glenn Greenwald. And pretty much, if I understand this table that we're seeing correctly, it shows how many views, how many hundreds of thousands of views each of the big, you know, hosts from the major channels, so Fox, CNN, and MSNBC get. And I mean, the only thing that's very interesting to see, and I guess not shocking, so if I'm reading this correctly, because look, on top he says, Joy Reid and Chris Hayes both have now sunk to fewer than 100,000 people. So that's the only way that I believe, like, you know, the scale of the table. So if you see Tucker Carlson 504, so I believe that means 504,000. I'm just assuming. So yeah, Glenn has picked a good show that he goes on more often than the other.
Under the age 55.
Yeah, under the age of 55. So I think this table is for people under the age of 55. And Tucker Carlson, yeah, seems to be doing much better, and not surprisingly. And I mean, MSNBC's and CNN numbers, even if they add them up, so like Cooper plus Hayes, whoever that is, it doesn't even reach Carlson. And yeah, Hannity does also semi-decent. But yeah, Fox News seems to still command, of course, not surprisingly, but compared to the other main networks, a bigger audience. Anything there that catches your attention?
Not really. No. I think it's all dead medium cable, really, as a whole. So,
but I mean,
I think no, it's just Tucker Carlson and that type of thing is gonna become sort of like in 50 years or so. It's gonna become what New York Times and Washington Post are now. Nobody really reads them or looks at them, but they sort of sets the agenda of the day, and that type of thing, because they are the elite sort of. They're the elite.
Yeah.
They are the court historians or whatever. They push the elite narrative. So I'm not that surprised, because I think Americans are sort of becoming increasingly deluded, especially the youth, with the current media sort of ecosystem. So it's not surprising. And besides the fact that you can, it's just, besides all the whole left, right, substantive stuff, it's just you can consume news in so much easier ways now.
No, definitely. But yeah, this is most likely for people under the age of 55, which makes it more impressive, because you keep on hearing this stat that like the average Fox News viewer is like 7 years old or something.
But if you are a right winger, you're far more likely, for example, you know what I mean? Like, young right wingers will be more likely, in my view, to watch Tucker Carlson than, I'll kind of get to that when we talk about responses to some comments, than young left wing. There is no young like centrist. I don't know, maybe there are, but I doubt there are that many young centrists like watching Chris Hayes and Rachel Maddow. You know what I mean? Center just doesn't have that attraction, extremes besides the substance. Let's put aside the substance. It's because right now we are living in an age where it's just, we need radical change. Some people feel, a lot of people feel. So I think in that sense, just center is going to collapse completely.
Oh, I don't know about that, but okay, let's keep on moving. Speaking of center collapsing, maybe like the only, like Bernie Sanders is probably like the only most unique person I've kind of seen in US politics from like the left and the progressives that kind of goes against that. But yeah, two things that I see here. I mean, one is again about the inequality, but the second part, and new moms are guaranteed 0 paid days to spend with their baby. That's another crazy thing about the US. Apparently, so viewers, please correct us. Yeah, in the US, apparently you almost get no maternity leave, which is quite a crazy thing. That's the only thing.
Oh, okay, I got it now.
Apparently, yeah. So people correct us, please. But I've heard this before too, like other places. That,
I would imagine there must be some state distinction, like variation,
or some private companies. They'll give it to you and all this. But I mean, I guess by law, it's not the case.
I would say, is it acceptable? Oh, Bernie Sanders is saying that. I thought somebody is saying that to Bernie. Bernie Sanders is asking us. It's like, we're the senator. What the hell is this? Is just like, oh my God, I hate this so much. When politicians tell you the problem as if it's like, I know, what your job. Why are you?
I mean, I guess Bernie can. Yeah, but I guess Bernie, he'll be like, I'm working on this every day. No, Anna just retweeted. But I guess Bernie can be like, no, I'm working on this every day, in his accent, and his voice.
Okay. All right. No, I know. Okay, but I don't understand how tweeting about it will help. I really don't.
I mean,
if you're working at it every day, just work at it every day.
You can tweet at it too. I mean, you gotta tweet.
It's posting. That's what feels to me. And I don't like that from Bernie.
Really?
I just found. I thought somebody was genuinely saying that to Bernie as a sort of, why are you? But now I'm sorry.
I mean, this is what you write to your. You write this to your, followers, and
And then your followers say, and then Bernie Sanders followers will answer to this question will be probably, no, it's not acceptable to us. And people who don't follow him won't see this. So it's a snake eating its own mouth. It doesn't even have promotional value. I don't get it.
I mean, it has some, but yeah, sure. It's not the greatest thing. And anyway, as I've mentioned a million times, there is no one on Twitter. So in any case, that's like the main issue. One of the I think the only way that people were seeing
nobody's willing
tweets,
to pay.
It's because the TV was taking Trump's tweets and showing them on TV. I think that's how people were just seeing Trump tweets. Like, that's like the main way.
Again, Twitter is like exposure. Twitter is like its own ecosystem.
Yeah, it's very
there is a big. There's a lot of people there, and they sort of communicate with each other. But yeah, it's just all right. I'm just sorry. I was
much less than other platforms. But okay, Sam, I think this next tweet you'll have a lot to say about.
That's
and
a
this
bit
one,
more substantive.
yeah, this one we were going to talk about it, but I thought we'd do it over the tweet. So it's pretty much, I just took one of them, but Brianna had I'll put the video on so everybody can see right now as well. She had like a discussion with this, I believe her name is Layla or something. Do you want to give some context if you know the names and what it was about? And
Oh no,
yeah,
Layla, Talia,
yeah.
I can I don't know anything more than you do. No.
Yeah, and she pretty much, she's someone I believe who's combating, I guess, like neo-Nazis and stuff, and she got really pissed off over no reason from Brianna Joy Gray. So let's just read this tweet, because after that she came back and attacked Brianna, apparently saying, why did you put the video up or something like that? Why didn't you
with
edit
that
it?
title?
Yeah, and here she's, I mean, Brianna is just pointing out, sorry, that, you know, how difficult this person was, but damn, was she ridiculous. I don't know. What are your takes? Do you have any takes on the interview?
The thing is, I haven't seen the full interview because it's behind a paywall. So I feel a bit at a disadvantage commenting. But I'm going to comment nonetheless. I would say, like, substantively, it was about the fact that how aggressive should be towards the people who are far right or even racists.
So, or neo-Nazis almost. She kept on talking about Nazis.
Neo-Nazis. And exactly. And I don't, there is quite a lot of problems with like how do you classify people and all that. And then she was obviously far more aggressive, and Brianna Greyjoy was far more, and it reminded me of another debate, which Glenn debate with, I think, Nathan J. Robinson, where they keep sort of making these snide remarks, and in Farsi, we have a great word for it, kenaye. I think tikke, you know what I mean? We say parts.
Oh, okay. Got you.
Yeah. And which is
like
this
jabs,
sort of passive, jabs, exactly, like jabs. Yeah, that's a good word for it. Like these passive aggressive indirect ways of like, if you want to hold hand and kiss the Nazis and do that. And in my view, she's not saying it with an aggressive tone, but I just wanted to say that Brianna Joy Gray, besides like, she's just a personal hero in terms of how she can keep her cool, how she's professional. And then, I mean, we're going to discuss the correspondence that that they go through. And then she did an interview with The Hill. And that's one of the things, I really respect her professionalism. And I think in this episode, and she's had a couple of like difficult interviews and all that. And you always see, it seems like if somebody is a constant, people don't like that at all. They want them to just flatter them and just always agree with them or something. But it was you're gonna go through the actual interaction. I
don't have much of the interaction. No, say what happened. I mean, and her name, by the way, is Talia.
Talia
Lavin.
Oh, all right. Sorry, they had an original date for the broadcast. She was an hour late, and when she showed up, she was in her car on the phone. They couldn't do that. They could. I know they could. Well, we do it. They do the recording. They rescheduled the session. Then they did the recording. Then because of this rescheduling, there was it's ludicrous. She's accused. They posted it as their deadline was, I think, on Monday. So they had 3 days, and they posted it on the deadline as planned. Brianna Greyjoy even offered her to, if you want, you can come before I publish this to finish the interview in a more reasonable fashion and respond and all that. She rejects all those things, it seems, from the private correspondence she published, which you can how ethical and unethical that is. That's personal judgment. So I think putting the substance aside, which I think obviously agree with Brianna Joy Gray more, that even if you're facing an actual Nazi, I'm not talking about war situation. In a war situation, try to kill them as much as you want. But if you're in a party, or if you see them in a normal civil situation, arguing politely, in my experience, has been better in convincing people than sort of telling them how stupid and fucked up their views are. That usually sort of makes people more defensive. They put barriers up, and I don't think, my view is that, I mean, good and bad is just such stupid categories, and I think people who usually disagree with me, basically, or let's say Nazis, they're stupid. If they weren't stupid, they wouldn't be Nazis. Like, it's not that they're bad. So, like, I mean, I'm sure there are some psychopaths who are just going to something for kids, but because they're so fucking stupid, because they didn't have a proper education, they got connected to these sort of thoughts. So that's the substance of the thing. But you read the private correspondence and all that, and you see that somebody acted with complete professionalism, and the other person, I think, used this chance to maybe just have some drama.
Man, it just came out of nowhere, though, because exactly, I mean, her point, Talia's point, was just like, yeah, Nazis and stuff, you should just, like, you know, only say, like, you should pretty much punch them in the face when you see them, you know, just not interact with them, just do like the worst possible to them. And Brianna was like, you know, is that enough for making, you know, the world a better place, in the sense of, you know, yeah, no worries, perhaps having less people who are Nazis down the line or something like that, maybe. And then Talia was like, you know, but we're, you know, that doesn't work and all that. And then the part where Brianna simply asked her, well, what about your methods? Like, do you have proof that your methods, you know, lead to a better world where less Nazis? And that's when she just like flipped out and started saying, like, listen, if you don't want to be on my side or like believe what I'm saying and stuff, you can do that, but I'm not going to change my mind. And sorry, one last thing. Then it gets really funny, and she's like, sorry if I'm pissed off, I'm trying to quit smoking. And here I think Brianna really got her, and Brianna's like, no worries, so, you know, why are you trying to quit smoking? And then she's like, well, it's because, you know, I'm running and I want to be able to run more. So Brianna's like, so you see, you thought about it and you reached this reason. It wasn't because people were beating you over the head with, you know, smoking is bad. So I think she really got her there. And then Talia Gurgel, she was like, no, that too. And then Brianna started laughing. So I think that was like, yeah,
that's called, that's a debate technique known as Brianna Jiu-Jitsu move.
Yeah, that was hilarious.
Death touch, Brianna death touch.
I think after that she was like, the girl was like extra
I would
pissed.
like to point out, she's somebody who's used to work for major news outlets, I believe New York Times, and got fired for being wrong at her fact checking. So, you know, these people are just fascinating. And I would say, again, there is a good debate to be had as a state, what you should have as a state policy towards Nazis, but then that's a whole different debate than as an individual what you should do. So, you know, I mean, it's just, I think
Brianna was just asking.
Brianna was just talking about, we are living in this current scenario. So
no, but I'm saying she was just asking the girl questions. She was just like asking her to explain herself, but she got pissed off. And by the way, earlier on when I said I really hate that, that's when people do interviews from their cars. That's what I hate, not the fact that she was late. You can't be late. I hate when people do interviews.
I have never seen that.
Oh, in the MMA world, they do it a lot. I don't know why. They're like going back and forth from the gym, and then they're like doing an interview with like the camera just showing half their face. Like, you're not that interesting, buddy. Just go to the next one. Like, fuck that. But okay, let's move on to the next tweet. And again, this one is pretty interesting.
My headphones might run out of battery, and I have to change them at some point. Just
no worries. Let me know. But hey, this one was interesting again, and we spoke about this. So this one was on the whole Texas abortion, and Katie Halper had a few guests on, you know, talking about what this Texas abortion means and, you know, what are some of the solutions. So there are two things that are very interesting. One we talked about, but one I don't think we did. So the first one that we talked about was, I believe, the guest Samuel. He brought this up, especially he was like, you know, we rely so much on the courts to make things happen and not on the legislative body. And, you know, when it goes our way, it's good, but this is not the right way to really do it, you know. And I was saying, yeah, I kind of agree with that. You know, like the Supreme Court is a way to getting like a really nice and big, quick win, but perhaps it's not the best way. The second part is this was suggested by the lady sitting next to Katie Halper, Emily Goodman,
Former judge.
Former judge. And she said that the best way to address abortion, and so for women who want to have abortion to be allowed to, is pretty much use the same amendments that are used for slavery. So, I mean, I thought that was kind of different. I'd never heard that. So, yeah, she was saying that, you know, the same laws is, I guess her reasoning is the same thing. You're forcing someone to do something that they don't want to by forcing them to have a child that they don't want to. Yeah, I mean, I'm just saying it was the first time I heard about it. It was bit interesting, and the other gentleman, Samuel, he seemed quite open to it. Oh, fix your headphones.
Yeah, sorry, you were finished with your thought, or?
Yeah, I was just saying the other person who was there, Samuel, he took it well, the suggestion.
It's like kind of people who try to, like, actually I think Cenk recently did that on Twitter, that try to argue against abortion by citing the fact that in Bible, actually God sort of, there is a thing in Bible that God says that you should drink this poison sort of thing that was considered to be a sort of a abortion drug at the time. If your husband thinks your baby, it's complicated. It's kind of like that to me. It's like, look, man, it's just like 14th Amendment. Like, I really hate the U.S. Constitution. I generally agree with Samuel Moyle. I just think legislative is where things should be made laws, not just. I hate judiciaries. I hate like judges, all that. I'm for. I think it's a bit of a. It's that type of argument. It's like the type of argument that, you know, they want to convince somebody, let's say, that Darwinism is true. So they say, you know, it doesn't interfere with the original creationist theory that is in Bible. It's just the God, it's all metaphors. And I don't care. I really, okay, whatever. Yeah, whatever. However you want to get out of it, get out of it. Is it a slavery? I really don't know. I mean,
yeah, I mean, I can see how you can think about it that way. It was just, but overall,
I mean, it's a real like the effect it has on the person. But you can't abandon
forcing someone.
But it's just but it's just such an easy. Even if you think morally, abortion is wrong. All I believe studies have shown that all you do when you make it illegal is push it underground, where more people can get sick and die. And it's just I don't understand why morality has to come into lawmaking anyway. And it's just really bad.
And I mean, one key takeaway also just overall from this conversation was I'd never thought about it, but I guess there is no law in the books in the States making abortion legal. It all really comes down, based on my little bit of understanding, to that one Supreme Court, Supreme Court case. I guess before that, maybe it was legal in some states or something. I'm not sure. I mean, in the US, it's never a blanket law. So usually,
to be honest, I like the whole common law thing. I just don't like that Supreme Court is the highest court in the land. I think legislature should be the highest court in the land anywhere. But in US, it's the weird system of that, which allows this whole thing. So I think, this debate should be debated at a national level in a different way. But that's a good way of, I mean, if lawyers can use that, like Assange lawyers use the whole, you know, unsafe US prisons to sort of stop his extra, you know, use whatever means you can to fight this, of course.
100%. But okay, all right, let's move on. The next one to our friend Cenk. It's sad to see people fall for the simplistic arguments. The Jimmy Dore and Alex Jones of the world say ivermectin is approved for human use, and the audience think that's a good point. Chemotherapy is also approved for humans, but if you don't have cancer, I wouldn't recommend it. So pretty much I want to see if you had any takes on the whole Joe Rogan getting COVID and how he bounced back. And, you know, TYT is really going against this whole ivermectin thing, and Jimmy Dore has come out saying that he uses it. So this has created a nice little rift between parts of the left and also right and left. But anything just in general about Rogan getting COVID. I just have one thing about him getting COVID kind of to say.
My general take is that from what I understand, your doctors can prescribe this medicine to you as well, or other medicines. And consult your doctors.
Yeah.
Don't listen to anyone.
Don't listen to TYT.
And for sure. But and read on, like, I don't even trust doctors that much. Read academic articles, read the latest research, and I don't like the thing is, it's sad to see people is it sad to see? I don't, are they, from what I saw, I don't watch Jimmy Dore that much. I don't watch Joe Rogan, but all they said that this is a drug that can also be prescribed by doctors for you. And one of the reasons that it's been tied to conspiracy theories is that it's apparently cheap and available in the third world. And there is this thing that emergency use of vaccination cannot be given legally without, I don't know about all that shit. But it's just, again, this is another chapter in adventures of what can I use to hurt somebody that I hate already. Live your lives, people.
And like the original backlash with Joe Rogan is, all the guy did, he's a civilian. He didn't even do it through the form of his podcast. He just made a video and he said, hey, I got sick from COVID and I took these medications. And then everybody, of course, jumped on that ivermectin thing. The only little gotcha petty comment I would make is that I'm not even going to go on the vaccination stuff because that's different. But, Joe Rogan kind of talks about how if you're a fit person and stuff, COVID is nothing, getting it is no big deal. But in his own words, as soon as he thought he had it, he threw everything but the kitchen sink at it. So it's kind of like, if you get a little fever, do you also go and do everything you possibly can to make sure that you don't get bad if you have a little cold? No. So, that's the only little gotcha I got for him.
No, but I would say there is much over exaggeration about 100%. COVID as well.
But he didn't react to it like a little cold based on what he said, all the precautions that he took and all the medicines and everything.
Yeah, because
to make sure he gets better.
Yeah, but that's like saying that on his deathbed, he converted to Christianity. So fucking what? It doesn't, his actions and his arguments are not, don't have to correspond in my view, really. But for his views to be correct or incorrect. But I do think there's a lot of fear mongering on the other side. And 100%. It's, he was, I think, about the healthy young people, I don't know.
But that's the only thing I kind of went to say about that. But okay, let's continue to our last tweet. And I forgot about that poll, so we'll just get to the poll after. Naturally. So the last tweet is by Aaron Mate. US claims that it's in Syria to fight ISIS, but a Pentagon review of the mission shows that the US is barely fighting ISIS. Meanwhile, US officials have quietly acknowledged the real motives, using US forces as leverage to deny Syria its own resources. So this quote just kind of made me only think of
quietly.
True. Wait, did it say quietly? Yeah, quietly, yeah. This tweet kind of, before I throw it back to you, it reminds me of the study that we read recently on why why Russia is interested in Syria. And like the 2 out of the 4 reasons that the researcher, that the scholar gave was the natural resources and getting their hands on the Syrian natural resources. Of course, they're doing it to different means than the US because they're partners with the Assad regime. But it was just like, yep, of course the US is doing that. It's not quietly, and that's the whole game. And the Russians are also doing that. It just kind of reminded me of that study. I don't know if you have any takes.
Yeah. No, it's just, of course, yes.
Yeah.
That's I recall that's why we set up our American Pentagon State 4 really from that's what I love the fact that he was quietly.
Yeah. But have to agree with Aaron there.
I love the Pentagon. Why do you do these reviews? You know you're gonna come off badly. Just come out and say, okay, guys, we're just, we are in the petro business. Okay, fuck it. You know now. All right?
Some Pentagon no, but others said, like Donald Trump. I mean, he said Afghanistan, there's a lot of good stuff there to take. He said about the oil in Syria.
Yeah, but the thing was the infrastructure. You had to, actually build the infrastructure.
Yeah.
With Iraq, most of it was there. Halliburton came in, did some drilling. It's fine. Dick Cheney could have handled that. Yeah. But with Afghanistan, it's really difficult. Every fucking time you build 2 meters of road, they blow up the half of the mountain on your head. Jesus Christ.
Yeah. And I mean, oil, they have crude oil in Iraq, which really seems to be like the easiest and best resource to get your hands off and just like take it with you and make quick money. And I guess in Syria there's also gas and all this, and I think you need more pipelines and infrastructure. And Afghanistan,
Syria is
of
a bit
course,
more, I would say, geopolitical as well, about that Israel and all that. Yeah, because Syria does not have that much. I mean, right now they're trying, as it says, denying natural resources to the government. It's not that, like, Syria is not that. Although it did used to be in Middle Ages, the breadbasket of, I believe, Arabia. So
no, but in the study that we talked about, exactly, another geopolitical reason is to prevent
Russia
gas coming from other countries passing through.
Yes.
Passing through
the
Syria.
pipeline,
So coming from. So having control over that. But so Sam, and then finally the last, this I found it pretty funny. So this is another one of these YouTube polls. And so it says, and there were 9,500 votes. By France 24 English, I was quite surprised by this. In the US, a deeply divided Supreme Court has allowed a Texas law that bans most abortions. Do you understand this decision? So only 57% said no, this law is unethical. 43% said yes, it will save lives. I just found it a bit surprising, imagining the kind of people who subscribe to France 24. I would have thought there would be more people would say that this is unethical.
I think there is a reasonable argument can be made that the act of abortion can be, in some circumstances, unethical or immoral. In some say, like somebody who is an adult and have, like, then they have the finances, they have the resources, they decide to have a baby, and then they have the baby, but then in the middle of the thing, they are stingy, they don't want to spend the money, and they live in a country where there is like nobody to adopt. So I do think there is maybe a very rare case that you can say morally or ethically it's wrong to for somebody to do that, and it's not a nice thing and all that. But again, like, even if you think that all the studies show that all you do when you make it illegal make the situation worse, like, I don't know all the studies, sorry, I'm sure there are some studies that show the opposite, as always, but a lot of the studies shows that all you do is make it more unsafe for the women, and it does have no effect on on the usually rate of abortions and stuff, and you have more children with issues that are, well, like, genuinely, some of them unsolvable. How do you live as somebody, just as somebody who's a child of rape, and it's hard, and you want, it's just I don't understand. Even if you think morally it's wrong, I don't understand how you could support such a law. Put aside, by the way, the individual you're completely undermining the individual freedom of a whole human being.
And 100%. And I mean, the example that you gave, I agree. And exactly, it might happen every now, like once in, like, I don't know how many, but it's not
rare.
Yeah, exactly. But it's not a reflection of reality, like when we deal, like, humanity is complicated enough. Let's just stick to what actually happens on the ground, as they like to say, in reality, which is most people don't want to have abortion for absolutely no reason. Like, I mean, that's not a thing. If life was that messed up, we'd have even more problems. That's all.
let's say even
But
if
I was
they are,
surprised by
let's say,
this poll, man. How many people in France? 24 subscribers?
to be honest, I found that in my experience in the Christian world, generally abortion is far bigger of a taboo than anywhere. Like, to be honest, it's really fun. Like, I don't know. I would
Yeah, I mean, in Latin
you know,
America, it's a huge taboo, and it's in a lot of Latin American countries.
Never.
I think you still can't. Or no, they just. There was
It's
one
hard.
or two countries last year where they finally legalized it. Was it Argentina?
Yeah, but
remember.
it's really funny because, like, in the Muslim world, I've traveled a lot of different Islamic countries. Like, you know, there is a lot of things that people that are Muslim don't do, like anything pretty much Islamic. But the pig thing, the eating pork, that's one thing that they've sort of, it's completely culturally, like, it's the government doesn't have to enforce it, anything like that.
Exactly.
Everybody's on board. Yeah. And abortion had seemed to me to, it just seems such a bigger taboo in the Christian world than in in the Islamic words. I seen women talk about abortions so like, oh yeah, I had a couple of abortions, yeah, I was walking and then it dropped. Like, literally one lady told me that, and I was so shocked that I went to the sea and it just, I think it just fell off or something. I was like, what the fuck? This is like, are you okay? I wanted to hug her and comfort her, and I should have. It's like, oh, okay, you know, it's just called. I think that's I think that there is a cultural thing to Christianity and abortion.
Yeah. No.
Maybe, but this is not
point.
scientific, based on anecdotal evidence completely.
No, that's a very good point. But okay, Sam, before you get us into any more trouble, let's move on to the viewer comments part where you address some of your previous
previous crimes.
Which one do you want to start with? Which one are you going to start with?
Wait, there were two. I'm taking out my notes. What were the two? There was the Chavez one. And then,
I think the Chavez one is the most important one.
The big one.
Yeah.
I would like to shout out to Carter Gabriel, I believe, who's one of our followers, who I generally like his takes. And there was a lot of people asking about my there are three things. There are a lot of people asking about my views on, like, why did I say I never agreed with Chelsea Manning and all that. And
true.
That's, I mean, if it was a view that I thought worth discussing in public, I would have shared it, but I think it's a personal view that is not very substantive. It's a view based on personal takes, and it's a matter that I or nobody else can really look into properly. So I don't like, that's why I don't want to discuss it, and I don't want to that like thing, like, it doesn't matter. But generally speaking, the whistleblowers, I don't necessarily consider all of them a hero, or any of them. Some of them maybe, but and generally speaking, I don't consider anybody a hero really in that. Like, I don't like that sort of way of thinking and all that. Like, I think inspiring role models are people like Norm Finkelstein, Noam Chomsky, that type of people who stay true to them, to good values all through their lives or something. But so I don't like this sort of hero stuff. But that was it. So I didn't think my views are really valuable there. So that's that. Then somebody again came back to the whole issue of the article about why Bertrand Cooper and all that. The comments literally just came yesterday. I don't know, maybe they commented a while ago, but they said, I don't know, but they mentioned the fact that I may have supported saying that we should cry for weapon manufacturers, or we should be upset about them going out of business. But I think I mocked the people who think that, or it's like maybe I was talking like to call people who like were so worried about the coal mines and all that. Maybe, I don't know. So I didn't get that one.
This one's a bit hard. I don't know which one. The
one that goes also my takeaway from Bertrand.
Yeah.
I sent you the
I know. I'm just saying I'm not too sure exactly what
what they're referring to.
Since it's an old video, exactly. It's from like a month ago.
Yeah, exactly. So, and then they go that my takeaway from Bertrand is if you're exploiting the lived experience of marginalized group, you have an obligation to materially improve their situation, not that complex of a concept in my view. Sure, fair enough, but I don't agree that Bertrand was saying that. I think Bertrand, I don't think artists like the examples he brought are exploiting the experience of the marginalized groups. And to be honest, based on, I mean, this whole obligation stuff, it's kind of like the heroism thing. This language kind of confuses me. Obligation based on what? Like based on what, some personal value maybe. But yeah, okay. Yeah, just wanted to clarify that I just don't agree that artists are exploiting the lived experience of marginalized
and I mean,
groups.
my main takeaway from Bertrand was that he was pretty much dismissing, like he was telling a person that they can't make a video or movie if it's not about exactly their lived experience. That was his main thing.
That's a great segue for the next thing, which I'm gonna fully respond to the whole Chavez criticism, because people said,
yeah, I think this is the main one where you really need to explain.
Yeah, I really enjoyed, by the way, somebody commented, Sam, can you please provide some evidence Chavez personally committed corruption? Like that's genuinely, like, thank you for that question. And you know, I should, like, everybody should provide evidence and references for what they say. But what I didn't like, and I like to point out, and it's from a viewer who has been, I think, with us from very early on, and I no offense or anything, but it's just, I really didn't like that. I think it's weird for people who didn't live there and only have a second-hand retelling of what happened in a country to decide that other nation's history for them. Well, I completely disagree. And again, with the Bertrand Cooper thing, I haven't been to all the places in my own country. I haven't been to a lot of countries. I don't have much first-hand experience of anything. And most historians that I have read either. And I don't know, I just completely don't think it's weird. And I talk about ancient Greece. I have very strong views of ancient Greece sometimes. I've never been to Greece or ancient Greece or modern Greece or anything like that. So I do think that's a very, and I do see, it seems to be only brought up when people disagree with you. Just when they agree with you, they don't mention that your second retelling of Taliban takeover is a problematic one. I've never been to Afghanistan or any, you know, it's just ad hominem in my view.
But
well, but anyway, do you know about? I've known a lot of Venezuelan people. Again, not that it matters, not that because I've known people from Venezuela, that gives me some special insight into the country and into the minds of the people there. But they, I've known quite a lot of people, never been there, don't speak Spanish, all that. But yeah, I think, I mean, first of all, there are quite a couple of articles on JSTOR, if you want to go, academic articles, not news articles by the deep state, about his corruption and stuff, his housing program. I'm just looking to give some references. I'm not going to give full references because it was a off-the-cuff remark, and I just want to make it clear that I don't want to, for all of my life, I don't want to just respond to. For example, look at this figure, Alejandra Andrade. Was a former Venezuelan military officer and politician. Andrea was a member of Venezuelan Bolivariacia. He was in variety of, I believe, finance positions under Hugo Chavez's government. And he's been sentenced to 10 years prison in US for corruption and all that. And I'm sure US has gone after him because of political reasons. That doesn't make him not corrupt. And if you genuinely, and somebody, for example, said that the guy and his people took on an empire and raised living standards in that country massively until US sanctions and oil prices conspired to bring them hardship. Well, first of all, everybody was saying to Chavez, Putin, a lot of other nations that you shouldn't count on commodity prices. I highly recommend people watch David, the Marxist, the British Marxist, Jesus Christ. I want to say David Held
British.
because it's from, I forget, but he has this great explanation of that explains 2007 2008 crashes, in which first he explains how Lula and all these sort of, so at first they would cheer for because American collapse of capitalism, but then it comes to bite them in the ass because commodity prices start crashing and all that. So I think these Chavez, Putin, a lot of these people, just because they're fighting the most powerful empire that is also corrupt, does not make them, it's not a binary word, they're all crap. And Chavez, and in terms of, by the way, I do regret saying that Chavez was a dictator. I would say that I said that about Thatcher as well. Nobody called me on that. Nobody said, I should have said authoritarian style of government, because, okay, yeah, that's better. Authoritarian, because Thatcher, that's what I meant. He did win elections and all that. But if you genuinely think people get to these type of positions in any country, through ideals or believing in stuff, and I don't know, I just don't share your underlining assumptions. So that's why I thought and as why I said he was awful, besides all of that, he could have used the commodity high prices to invest in the long-term well-being of his country. He didn't. He, especially, by the way, I kind of understand it because there has been coup d'etats planned against him. So what
he had
did he
like
do?
two or three. He
He
survives 2 or 3 coups, I think.
I think he survived 2, but the second one he kind of survived by basically becoming one of the coup, like after the coup people put in charge after 2 days went full on mad, so they brought him back basically. But I would say that if I were him in his position, maybe I would have done the same. This is not a personal judgment. I don't care. But he, especially after the second coup, he became increasingly cronyism. And again, I understand when you are fighting an enemy, you can't trust anyone. But still, you're a chronist or you're corrupt, whatever you are. I don't know. So yeah, that's my views on Chavez. I would recommend highly to watch some of his stuff are available on YouTube, his weekly live addresses. I mean, people who make fun of Trump, was he not worse than Trump in public? He seems to be, to me, a similar, and in a way they all represent, he's not a real socialist, or he wasn't a real international socialist. They were some lumpen working class, military people who were like, they had some Christian socialist like ideas. Like, these are not, again, I don't take any of them seriously. If you think they were fighting a war against imperialism and all that, that's, I don't know, I guess I don't share your underlining assumptions. So yeah, I hope that clears things up, and I hope I gave some references. But I do think it's unfair to ask me to have reference for every of the Mark comment, because you could have asked me about Thatcher, Stalin, Pol Pot, all the dictators I mentioned, and and
I mean, the reason when you said that, I didn't react too much. I mean, I didn't know enough if we were like gonna go back and forth. But secondly, like Chavez, even within leftist circles, I mean, of course, within leftist circles, don't hate him for the same reasons as, they talk about on mainstream media in the US. But even on the real news, I remember all the time, and he was never compared to someone being in Lula's status and stuff, because sure, even if you take that he was like a socialist and stuff, one of the main criticisms was that he didn't diversify the economy and that he relied on oil and commodities, as you mentioned, which put Venezuela in even harsher place, that when sanctions happened, things got even harsher. So for me, it wasn't that weird that you actually criticized Chavez in that way. And not that many people reacted. We just had 2 or 3 commenters who said that. But I remember being quite normal in leftist circles when Chavez was talked about, including in the real news, to point out that, yeah, maybe his rhetoric is good, and he has, based on what I understand, the funding that came through all the money that made from oil, he did give that a lot back to different segments of the population. And that's why they're very happy with him. So he did distribute. Yeah, exactly. He did distribute.
Far better than Perez.
Yeah, he did distribute the money in that way. But I mean, in the back of my head, I remember one of the huge criticisms about him was the fact that, okay, I mean, he's very charismatic and charming, but you know, the way he set up the Venezuelan economy, it's good for now, but this will not last. And he didn't use a lot of that money that they made exactly to make other programs that will make them less reliable on oil money. So that's why when you said that he was, you know, he was corrupt and stuff, I mean, I knew, as per usual, use a bit like, you know, harsher words than most people would, but I had those kind of criticisms in the back of my head. But yeah, that's all I gotta add.
Yeah, I mean, like, I think, yeah, I just thought it was not that controversial. But
yeah,
I know, I would say that, to be honest, though, I'm glad some people ask for references and all that. Thank you. But it's just that I'm not going to do that as often, probably.
I know, and I definitely 100%. Yeah, I mean, you don't do it every time.
Because it's just time-wise. It's just, yeah, it's just.
But hold on, one last thing.
So I thought I give a bit of a like general explanation to be used for future.
But yeah, I do find one thing, I 100% agree with you there. And I mean, that's an easy one to kind of jump on, which what Mark Ponicki said, which we hadn't heard from him for quite a while. Yeah. I mean, that is, of course, ridiculous. I mean, if you go by those standards, it's weird we don't live there. I mean, exactly. You can barely talk about your own neighborhood. And that's it, really. You can't go much further if you're going to stick to that standard. And, you know, that makes it makes it really hard to talk about anything. It's like, you know, saying, oh, you can't talk about this, you're not a doctor.
And just to be honest with everybody, I really don't have any first-hand experience of anything except reading. That's pretty, or books, movies, sorry. That's pretty much all first-hand experience I have, if anybody's interested.
But okay, all right, let's wrap this podcast up. Okay, well, thank you very much for watching, people. If you have more questions, concerns, comments, criticisms, please leave them down in the comment section below. And even if Sam doesn't get to them, I'll make sure to get to them, and maybe we'll make some video responses, or if not, thank you, or get back to you in the comment section. But yeah, thank you very much for watching. Please like and subscribe, and we'll see you in our next video. Thank you.